Ladies and gentlemen, I'll call to order the December meeting of the Oxford Planning Commission. Commissioners, you have the agenda before you. Are there any changes or additions to the agenda? If not, is there a motion to approve the agenda?
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second. All in favor? Aye. All right. Commissioners, thank you, sir. All right. Any changes or additions to the minutes? Robert, I gave you that one typo. Any other changes? If not, is there a motion to approve the minutes from the November meeting?
Has the change been made?
Yes.
Okay. I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from November.
All right. Second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Perfect. Ben, do we have a staff report?
We do. So I just wanted to bring this to you guys' attention that over the last year, Kate Kenwright has been studying very hard for the exam for the American Institute of Certified Planners, and brings me great pleasure to inform you that she recently passed that exam. So she's in the final stages of getting her AICP credentials for that. So beat red.
We
She had no
know
idea.
Kate loves the attention.
She does.
Would you make a speech? Congratulations. All right. That takes us to the consent agenda. Are there any comments on the consent agenda? If not, is there a motion?
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
All right. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, sir. Our first hearing will be case number 3164. Andy Shull has filed a request for a variance from section 5.8.8.4.4 Neighborhood Conservation District side yard setback for property located at 317 Williams Avenue. Kate.
Thanks. So the applicant seeks approval for a side yard setback variance to allow for a new addition to the existing building. The building as is sits within the setback as it's located approximately 18 inches from the property line in the front right corner and extends back with both sides of the building extending back into the side setbacks. The applicant purchased the home with this nonconformity, and in their application they noted that they did explore going up with the addition rather than back, but that it's not practical as the entire roof of the structure would have to be removed and it would result in a much taller building than the surrounding structures. According to our code, a variance may be granted if special conditions and circumstances exist which are peculiar to the land, structure, or building involved and which are not applicable to other land structures or buildings in the same district. It's not the fault of the applicant that the existing building is built over the required setbacks. Extending the existing roof lines and building lines of a house for the purposes of adding on is commonly done. And there's no way to do that in this instance without increasing the building footprint further into the side setbacks. So for those reasons, staff is supporting this variance request. Should the commission find that sufficient hardship exists in this instance, staff recommends approval of the variance with the condition that approval is for the plan as submitted.
Thank you. Questions from the commission? All right. Is there anyone from the audience who would like to speak? If not, is there a motion on the variance?
I'll make a motion that we approve the variance with the one staff condition of the approval as submitted.
Okay, there's a motion to approve with the one condition. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, the variance is approved. Our next case is case number 3171. Paval Design Studio has filed a request for a variance from section 3.11.1.5.d. Additional standards for accessory uses and structures for property located at 1005 Fillmore Avenue. Kate?
Okay, so this property is located one lot west of the intersection of Fillmore Avenue and South 11th Street. The existing building is listed as contributing in the South Lamar Historic District, so should the variance be approved, the plans will require review and approval by the Historic Preservation Commission, and the applicant has already filed those plans with the city. The applicant proposes the addition of an outdoor covered patio at the rear of the property. The new covered patio would encroach into the side and rear setbacks. According to the application, the lot is a shallow lot at about half the depth of other lots on the street. Additionally, the house is situated far to the right side of the lot with the common areas, kitchen, living, etc., being on the same side of the house as the tighter lot line. It's in proximity to these types of spaces that an outdoor living area is best placed. Similar to the application we just heard, the applicant plans to extend the existing house structure to form the roof for the new patio, and it will not extend further into the side setback than the existing side elevation. Again, a variance may be granted if special conditions and circumstances exist which are peculiar to the land structure or building involved and which are not applicable to other land structures or buildings in the same district. The applicant is taking the approach of extending the existing roof lines and building lines of the house, which is commonly done. There's no way to do that in this instance without increasing the footprint further into the side and rear setbacks. So for those reasons, staff is supporting this variance. Should the commission find that sufficient hardship exists in this instance, staff recommends approval of the variance with the condition that the approval as per the plan is submitted. I'll also note that we received 2 letters of support from the neighboring properties, which were sent out to you guys earlier today and were included with the public case file.
Thank you. Any questions from the commission? All right, any questions or comment from the audience?
I'm just here if y'all need me.
All right. If not, is there a motion on the variance from section 3.11.1.5.d?
Move that we grant the variance with the one staff condition.
Is a motion to approve the variance with one condition? Is there a second?
Second.
Second, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you, sir. The variance is approved. Our next case is case number 3165. Oxford Commons Lots has filed a request for preliminary plat approval for the Summit Phase 3 property located at Ed Perry Boulevard. Robert?
All right, the subject property is about 20.5 acres, located mostly in the Oxford Commons PUD, west of the Preserve, south of the Summit Phase 2, and north of the Pearl. The applicant proposes a 2-lot subdivision of approximately 9.8 and almost 8 acres to be the 3rd phase of the Summit. This phase will connect Lakewood Hill Drive to Summit Drive, which will then access Ed Perry. Both of these lots meet the dimensional standards of the underlying suburban center zoning, and those areas that are inside of the PUD will have additional standards for use, intensity, and density as prescribed in the Oxford Commons PUD plan. Engineering has comments related to access, water, sewer, and a brief history of the stormwater management of this area. And so staff recommends approval of the requested preliminary plat for the Summit Phase 3 with the 4 conditions that are listed in your staff report.
Thank you, sir. Questions from the commission?
Yeah, Robert, what was I can't the exact language, but I read it as the 48-inch pipe is, did I read that as it's at its max capacity?
John Crowley.
Yeah, that's correct. They accounted for that in the design in Phase 3, though, with some additional attention back upstream of that. But
Okay.
The existing 48-inch pipe, it's maxed out.
Okay, but you're satisfied with what they've done to
Yeah.
this? It'll
Yes,
slow the flow.
that's right.
Okay.
Additional questions? All right. Anyone from the audience? Is there a motion on case number 3165 for the preliminary plat, which would be a recommendation to the Board of Aldermen?
Motion to approve preliminary plat
Motion
with
to
the staff conditions.
Motion to approve with staff conditions?
I'll give that a second.
All in favor? Aye.
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 Thank you, sir. That takes us to case number 3166. Citizen Bank has filed a request for site plan approval for Citizen Bank property located at 708 Sisk Avenue.
All right, the subject property is about 1.2 acres, located at the southwest corner of Sisk Avenue and Commonwealth Boulevard, right across from Chick-fil-A. Property is lot 17 of Oxford Commons Phase 1 and is located in the PUD. Applicant proposes to construct a 2-story bank with associated drive-through and ATM. Banks are allowed in suburban center by special use, and we've got the stacking, all good on that, and parking for banks is calculated at 1 per 300, and they are good on their parking. Same thing, good on impervious coverage, and well under the building height requirements. Additional PUD requirements, this is tract C5 in the PUD master plan, and C5 is allocated 26,401 square feet of commercial space, and this plan would leave 18,419 square feet for this tract. A landscaping package has been included that indicates parking lot trees, frontage trees, foundation plantings, and landscape screening that all meet the requirements. Building materials will be brick veneer with aluminum composite panels as accents, and no dumpster is indicated on this site plan. The applicant proposes a shared dumpster with the site to the west at the time of that site plan. Until that time, waste will have to be carried to either the applicant's location east, down Sisk, or inside of the office park to the south, where they also have offices. Documentation of this plan will be needed as a condition of approval. And as always, a separate approval will be required to ensure compliance with signage requirements. Engineering has comments related to access, water and sewer, and stormwater management, and staff recommends approval of the requested site plan for Citizen Bank with the 6 conditions that are in your staff report.
You, sir.
And Paul is online if you have questions.
Okay. Questions from the commission?
What were the issues with the stormwater? I know they're gonna resubmit, you're gonna approve, so we're covered on that, but I was just curious, what issues were there?
Yeah, not any real issues, they just have yet to get an approved design.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Other questions? Anyone from the audience? All right. Is there a motion on the site plan for Citizen Bank?
I make a motion to approve the site plan with the 6 staff conditions.
Motion to approve with staff conditions. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Site plan is approved. Our next case is 3167. The Grove at North Lamar has filed a request for preliminary and final plat approval for Savannah Square property located at 1205 Pleasant Drive. Let the record show that Commissioner Alexander is recusing himself.
Okay, subject property is about 2.5 acres in the Savannah Square development at the intersection of North Lamar and Pleasant Drive. The applicant was approved for Savannah Square mixed use at this location. Most recent of these site plan amendments was in March of '23. Applicant has returned to propose a 2-lot subdivision of this property. There will be a 1.22 acre lot associated with Building A, which fronts South Lamar, and a 0.9 acre lot associated with Building B, which is the fully residential building on Pleasant Drive. There will also be about 0.4 acres associated with a common detention area. Each of those lots meet the dimensional requirements of the underlying T&B zoning, and the lot lines are drawn so as to make sure the existing and under construction buildings are compliant with setbacks. Engineering has comments related to access and stormwater management, and staff recommends approval of the requested preliminary and final plat for what is now named Savannah Square, Oxford Phase 7, with the 7 conditions that are listed in your staff report. And Joey's here for questions.
All right. Questions from the commission? Seems pretty straightforward.
I think this is actually the one that I think I had them mixed up. This is the one where they had, I guess, initially submitted the stormwater management that there was issues. All right, this is the case I was thinking about. So what issues were they having, or what did they?
Sure, but I don't guess you recall an issue. The original design was for a single site detention. So it's common interest development, but now since they're going to a subdivision, it's typically a regional detention pond that will have ownership from 2 separate lots. So the change really is more of language plating type than it is actual design of the stormwater facility itself.
Okay. That's what I was wondering about. Thank you.
Additional questions? All right, anyone from the audience? All right, is there a motion on the preliminary and final plat?
Motion to approve, subject to staff conditions.
There's a motion to approve with staff conditions. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, it's recommended for approval. Bringing us to case number, if I can keep up, 3168. Rise has filed a special exception request as provided in section 3.5.5.6, residential bonus for Rise property located at 1913 Oxford Way.
Okay. Subject properties are located on Oxford Way near the roundabout, just west of the archive. The applicant proposes Rise Ole Miss, a mixed-use development that is primarily residential in nature, located in northeast, southeast, and southwest portions of the roundabout. The properties for this development consist of 3 different zoning districts, including TNB, suburban multifamily, and neighborhood residential. Total area for the proposed development measures approximately 12.2 acres. The request here is for a special exception for a residential bonus of 21 rooms as provided in the multifamily standards. This was required as part of the approval of the special exception for ground floor residential in case number 3115. Density limitation for the TNB districts is 39 bedrooms an acre. There's approximately 2.75 acres of TNB property, which allows for a total of 107. Development proposal indicates a total of 128, which is 20 more than allowed by code. However, the applicant is below the bedroom density limitations in suburban multifamily areas. Staff has worked with the developer to create a site layout that complements the existing developments along Oxford Way, and while the site plan could be revised to incorporate the additional units into the suburban multifamily, we believe that the design and consistency with the neighborhood would suffer. For these reasons, staff is supportive of the special exception request for only the 21 bedrooms as depicted in this plan. Additionally, we propose a condition that the unused density in the suburban multifamily portion of the development would be reduced by 21 bedrooms to account for the bonus. And so staff recommends approval of the requested special exception with the 3 conditions that are listed in your staff report.
Thank you, Robert. Before we continue, please let the record reflect that Commissioner Alexander has returned to his seat. So we're essentially just moving rooms around a single development that has multiple zoning districts.
Correct.
Okay. Questions from the commission?
Why?
This was part of the special exception request from August that allowed for the ground floor, was it 2? No, so it's the ground floor residential units in the TNB districts, which are the areas that are closest to the roundabout. This allows for that density to be closer to the road, and it backs off a little bit as you get north into the suburban multifamily. Anything else you want to add on that?
No, I mean, I just think that that was something that was considered, previously discussed and considered with that special exception. So only other thing that.
Was it included in the special exception?
Yep.
That was
It was included in terms of, it was discussed, it was something that, it was acknowledged that staff would support that, and then that we approved with the condition that they had to come back and had to secure the special exception.
Additional questions? Anyone from the audience or online? All right, is there a motion on the special exception for the residential bonus? All right, I'll make the motion that we approve the residential bonus with the staff conditions. Is there a second for that?
Second.
There's a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, all opposed? Do we have a count of the vote?
No, we need
No.
Commissioner Spraggins.
Commissioner Spraggins, how do you vote?
Aye.
All right,
I'll vote for it, yeah.
okay, all 4.
All in favor?
Yep. All right. Special exception is granted. That brings us to case number 3170. Rand Management has filed a request. No, sorry.
3169.
Yeah, we should do that one too. Sorry about that. 3169, Rise has filed a site plan approval for Rise property located at 1913 Oxford Way.
So, same property, this is for the site plan approval. There are multiple uses proposed in each of the different zones. In the neighborhood residential, we get 10 detached 4-bedroom units and 20 attached 4-bedroom townhomes. Both of those require special exceptions, and those were granted in August. In suburban multifamily, 24 1-bedroom, 95 2-bedroom multifamily units, as well as 2 4-bedroom townhomes are proposed. Both of those require special uses, which we have applications for. In the TNB, you get 8 1-bedroom units, 25 2-bedroom units, and 24 3-bedroom multifamily units, as well as some commercial space with clubhouse. Multifamily in TNB is a special use, and the applicant has been granted a special exception for ground floor residential and applied for the increase in density, which you all just approved. For parking, the detached units will require 40 spaces and 10 guest spaces. Townhome units will require 120 spaces and 30 guest spaces. Multifamily will require 320 spaces and 75, and commercial will require 7. In total, 595 spaces are required, and the applicant has removed pickleball courts, and they've got 595 spaces now. You got different coverage standards for each one of the zones. They meet all of those. Same thing for the building height. For landscaping and lighting, the applicant has provided a landscaping and lighting plan that indicates the foundation plantings, frontage trees, parking lot trees, edge plantings, and required screening, and then also shielded lighting for the parking lots. All of that complies with the plan development code. For tree mitigation, the area was mostly previously cleared, and the areas that were not previously cleared consist of small diameter pines that do not require tree mitigation. For building materials, primary facade materials, brick veneer, board and batten cement siding, fiber cement lap siding, and fiber cement panels will be used. Waste management, the entire development will share a single compactor located in the southwest corner of the southern lot with valet service for trash to be provided for the residents. We will need documentation of this plan and a shared access for the compactor. And again, signage will require another approval. Engineering has some comments related to access, water and sewer, and stormwater management. And staff recommends approval of the requested site plan for Rise Ole Miss with the 6 conditions that are listed in your staff report.
Thank you, Robert. Questions from the commission on the site plan? All right. Is there any comment or question from the audience or online? The additional documents?
I just can't get it to load.
It's
Okay.
big, yeah.
I think it's just
It's a
mostly
large record.
drawings. I'll show it to you.
It's that Wi-Fi. Never mind, got it.
There you go.
The additional documents are elevations and floor plans,
Yep.
in case they don't look for you.
All right. Is there a motion on the site plan?
I'd move that we grant the site plan approval with the 6 staff conditions.
We have a motion to approve with the staff conditions. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, sir. The site plan is approved. That brings us to case number 3170. Rand Management has filed a request for a variance from section 2.6.7 traditional neighborhood business front yard build-to line maximum property located at University and Highway 6.
Thanks. So this property is located on Highway 6 near the University Avenue FD Buddy East roundabout. It should look familiar to everyone from last month when the applicant was granted a special exception for the use of the property as a service station at our November meeting. The applicant proposes to construct a service station with 5 pumps and a convenience store and 3 more bays of retail space to front University Avenue. The requested variance is from the front yard build-to line maximum allowed in the traditional neighborhood business district. So since the lot technically has 3 fronts, they're not able to meet that build-to line on all of the fronts. The orientation of the building is necessitated by restrictions on access to the lot from the south and east by MDOT. The building meets the build-to line, which in this district is 1 foot to 58 feet, on the north side of the property, which faces University Avenue. And this variance request is for the south side of the lot, which is the portion of the building that fronts Highway 6. A variance may be granted if special conditions and circumstances exist which are peculiar to the land, structure, or building involved and which are not applicable to other land, structures, or buildings in the same district. This lot is unique as it has frontage on several streets. Locating the proposed building within the front setback on the university side allows that to be the true front of the building, and the pumps will be located on the Highway 6 side in the space allowed for by this variance, should it be approved. So staff is supportive of this variance request for the listed reasons. Should the commission find that sufficient hardship exists in this instance, staff recommends approval of the variance with the condition that approval is for the plan as submitted.
Thank you, Kate. Questions?
I see that the detention is over the MDOT no access zone. Are they okay with that?
Hey, John,
Yes.
I think Joe's asking a question about the detention for this project located in
I
there.
just thought it was over into the MDOT no access zone, but I'm assuming that MDOT's okay with.
Yeah, I just don't think that there's access out to the road at that.
Well, that's actually inside it's not on the right of way, it's actually, portion of it's inside that buffer that they have.
They're saying
access
that's
to.
no access to the road right there. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, and that actually is not correct. MDOT changed that to limited access when we built the roundabout a few years back.
Okay.
So, I mean, Highway 6 is no access, but up on University that fronts this property, it's now limited access. So they should have no problem being granted their driveways and stuff.
But like it's a buffer, and well, I see the wording here, but it's just colored in gray, but I mean, basically that detention pond, is that?
On the south side of the
Is
property?
it on their property? Are they gonna be okay with it? Are they
It's on their property. Now, the 50-foot buffer planning can probably speak to whether or not a detention area would be allowed in that. We have not approved the design yet. So,
I say the pond looks like it could probably stretch more
yeah.
west and fix that. But it needs to be fixed.
Usually stormwater,
I mean, it's listed as a buffer, but I think that that's incorrect.
Okay.
It's not adjacent to any residential or there's no blue line stream or anything like that. That's something that, you know, we'll evaluate and tease out as part of the site plan process as it pertains to, you know, to the request before you with that front yard build-to line. I don't necessarily know that it's relevant to this issue, but it's something that we'll make sure that gets cleaned up.
okay. It's on their property and the buffer is not planning's buffer. That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. And the build-to line doesn't apply to stormwater detention, right?
That's what I was gonna ask next, is it, okay, we don't run into a problem if we have to go west. Okay.
Okay. Additional questions? Anyone from the audience or online? If not, is there a motion on the variance for the front yard build-to line?
Make a motion, we approve the variance with the one staff condition.
There's a motion to approve with the staff condition. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, sir. The variance is approved. That takes us to our final case for the evening. Case number 3172, City of Oxford has filed a request for modifications to the Land Development Code. Ben?
Thank you. Yes, we're proposing a few modifications to the land development code. I think most of them are more about clarifications and consistency within the code. Something that you might recall happened earlier this year where we actually made modifications to the parking code in all the residential districts to be chart form and also consistent across the board. One thing that we've been evaluating are, and I'm sure y'all will appreciate all the 4-bedroom requests that we get as it pertains to special exceptions. If you look at the different residential uses, it varied. It varied in some uses, it would allow for 25% four-bedroom units. In some instances, it required any four bedrooms to be a special exception. We're promoting and requesting some consistency here, so that way those residential uses, most of them, with the exception of detached, well, no, so if you're doing detached as part of a larger development, then, you know, those are permitted uses. But if you're proposing them in like neighborhood residential, then you're limited to not to exceed 25% four-bedroom units. Anything beyond that would have to come before the commission for a special exception. That's the case as it presents itself with detached zero lot lines, with townhomes, attached duplex, triplex, and quadplex. And then in multifamily, the same way. Another element that we have often tried to, stress upon inside the land development code is to not box ourselves in, right? Because we may not be able to think of a situation now doesn't necessarily mean that there won't be a situation in the future where that could be considered. So with respect to five or more bedroom units, which we've had questions about recently, the Ordinance Review Committee, we did have a discussion about whether to eliminate that entirely. And what we've done is we've worked in a provision where that could be requested by a special exception. That would be, a discretionary decision that y'all would ultimately have to make in those instances. We haven't really had that situation come up, but I can tell you that we have been asked over the last year or two, what we thought about five bedrooms, and we've a lot of that has been in more multifamily situations. I do think it's important to note that that would also conflict with the livability principles as it pertains to occupancy of a unit. So in a multifamily, you're limited to no more than 4 unrelated people in a unit. And so inherently having a 5-bedroom unit, that creates a potential conflict. However, that may be a situation where they're building it for age restricted or for, for senior housing, or it could be for, families or something like that. Again, we didn't want to just outright propose to eliminate that. We at least wanted to have some protection in place in case that was something that the commission felt appropriate at that time. So the rest is just about consistency across the board to allow basically all residential types to have up to 25% 4-bedroom units. Anything beyond that would require a special exception.
Quick,
That's, maybe this is oversimplified, so as long as they have less than 25% of the units are under 4 bedrooms, they just have to get staff approval.
That's right.
Okay.
It's a special use application.
Okay, and then anything above 25% has to come before the board.
Yeah, not much different than it is right now,
Okay.
Kirk, in that, if you're proposing a development that's all 3-bedroom units, you come and you get staff level
Yeah.
approval for a special use. I'm going to give you a really good example. We had a development not so long ago at Harlan in South Lamar. It was Bella Vita. Bella Vita. And y'all might remember that they requested a special exception for 4-bedroom units in the detached.
Yep.
They were only proposing 4-bedroom units in the detached. The attached product had 3-bedroom units. But they could have put all 4-bedroom units, or they could have 25% 4-bedroom units in the attached product, in the townhomes.
by right.
They could have done that by special use.
Yeah.
That's special, okay.
Yeah, and,
That's gonna make it mad.
that's I think there's a little bit of inconsistency there as it pertains to that portion of the code. And if it's okay in that instance, why is it not okay in the detached section? And really, it was a discussion of trying to, as best as we could, tease out a lot of that was in the neighborhood residential code. So if you go and you look at these 25%, really it's applicable to the neighborhood residential district, where a lot of times you're having developments that are, as we see, maybe investment properties that are rentals, or maybe not the same as like a Windsor Falls, right?
Yeah.
Where you have larger developments of maybe 4 and 5 bedroom units. So doing the best that we could to kind of tease down to where you might have rental properties or investment properties versus home ownership.
Hey, Ben, I've got one
Yeah.
ticky comment.
Sure.
What else do you expect? It says, the way it's worded in multiple, right now is when fewer than 25%, it's special use. When more than 25%, it's special exception, which opens the question, what if it's exactly 25%? So I think one of them needs to say, up to 25% or 25% or more.
Okay.
All right, that's it. What's that?
Look at him, he's asking.
Yeah. All right.
Okay.
So we have to get it straight.
I think staff can make that amendment. I mean, my only question was which
Are
way?
you saying right at 25%?
Yeah, if it's exactly
It's
25%, is
or
it
less.
special use or?
25%.
Including 25% or 25%?
Yeah,
I think it's 25% or less
is special use.
is special use.
Okay,
26% or more.
all right. Yeah.
That was our,
Yeah, it's got to be up to 25% and then greater than 25%.
slightly greater than 25%.
I'm sorry, I'm just trying to be more today.
Yes. Thank you.
It's hard to do.
But in a world of technicalities, we
All right.
appreciate that.
Thank you. All right, please continue.
We've had some recent conversations about properties that are zoned industrial and desires to have some additional uses, and so we are proposing some modifications to allow for offices and restaurants to be proposed in the industrial district. We don't have much industrial in town, but in the areas that we do, they're also in close proximity to to homes. And so, we've tried to make these districts, these mixed-use districts have, be centers and be able to take some of the pressures off of our major commercial corridors like University Avenue and Jackson Avenue. And so by providing some additional uses, limited, we think that it could be a good idea. Now, we did allow for office to be allowed it's just a permitted use. And we did clean up just a couple elements there. And then restaurants would be a special exception in the industrial district. And then just a slight tweak with the Historic Urban Center to make sure that, the condos that we have in these mixed-use common interest developments, that's the ownership mechanism for that. For some reason, that was not listed on here, and so that was a mistake that we're rectifying. And then in Article 6, under certified tree farms, so that was language that we added to the code in anticipation of an annexation of areas where we had certified tree farms on the fringes, and how to handle certified tree farms as it pertains to folks that wanted to have a final harvest. And so we did facilitate that. However, it didn't have a drop dead point. And so technically, as it stands right now, somebody could register today to become a certified tree farm, and then they could have a final cut harvest. The intent was really things that we were annexing, things that were at the time passage of that code and annexation. And so we've just put in that clarification that had to be a certified tree farm as of or earlier than January 1st, 2018. Chose that date because that was the effective date of the land development code, the new land development code going into effect. Also, we have had we've had a couple instances where we've evaluated certified tree farms, and we've kind of gone through the process of what it takes to go through that final cut harvest. And based on that new experience, we're trying to codify the process and the procedural element that would be required at the time that you come in for that final cut harvest. Particularly, a site plan be provided. That site plan would indicate all buffers that are required according to the ordinance, any potential haul roads within the site, and their travel pattern outside of that site. So how do they plan to haul trees through the city limits? And then also a landscaping plan. So this isn't your traditional landscaping plan that would have trees and shrubs and bushes. Quite honestly, it's to remediate the site. So typically a sod or a seeding plan to ensure that there's a tri-blend. So it's not just ryegrass that pops up in the spring, dies in the summer. It's usually the MDOT tri-blend. So we've got a mix of winter and spring and summer and fall grasses to be able to sustain that, help eliminate any erosion. Also, it would require a land disturbance bond, and with any land disturbance bond, we do have a site restoration bond that would be required to ensure that if they don't perform any of the remediation to the site, i.e. Grass, sod, or seed, then the city would then go in and do that. And then lastly, further clarified a provision that existed and has been in our code for a while, but we made it a little clearer and more applicable to all the things that the Planning Commission considers. Well, not all, but most of the things that the Planning Commission considers. So as it pertains to decisions that the Planning Commission makes, as it stood in our current ordinance, variances. So if a variance was denied by the Planning Commission, the same variance could not be reheard for a period of 6 months. So only if that was denied. And we believe that that should be applicable to special exceptions, also to site plans. And the code does already establish that the mayor and board of aldermen are not allowed to rehear a rezoning or the same rezoning. And so that's something that's important here. What this does allow for is some discretion. The planning department will have to evaluate a new application that comes before to ensure that it's different or it's not substantially the same as what was previously considered before it comes back to you.
And Ben, this is where I was talking to JR a little bit about this is, so if somebody comes up and there's an issue with their site plan or special exception or variance, they have to make a decision of if they're going to withdraw it as opposed to go forward through the planning commission and appeal it to the board of aldermen, or they risk being put on hold for 6 months over, depending on what you guys decide is whether it's substantially the same or not. And I feel like it's somewhat limiting to the people and people that are bringing stuff before us, and puts, you know, their potential project on hold for 6 months. And if, I mean, I understand, you know, let's say it was a, I don't know, variance, they were seeking a variance for 4 units, you know, because of the space, and, you know, they came back and, you know, 3, is that substantially the same or not, you know, or a site plan, you know, that
sure,
changes the curve in the road. Is that, and that's just my only concern with that, is you're just putting them in a box.
Well, I appreciate that, Kirk, and yes, I think that there is somewhat of a box. We don't have these issues that come up that often.
Yeah.
We discuss, deliberate, work with the applicants considerably. There's a lot of work, and I know y'all know this, but there's a lot of work that goes into, you know, these applications that come to y'all at this point. And there are sometimes there are some, you know, pinch points. And I think that the applicant, Kirk, has a few options. They have the opportunity to withdraw that request. They have the opportunity to table, where we can, you know, further discuss it and see how we tweak it. they can proceed with the vote and then appeal that to the board as you're discussing. And, you know, the board may remand it back to y'all to take a look at. So, I mean, I don't necessarily know that they forego that, you know, that process. They still have that available to them. If we make a determination that an element of a site plan that had been denied is substantially the same as what was previously considered, then, you know, that decision could also be appealed to this planning commission to be discussed as well. So I think that there are options.
Okay.
But, you know, we also, I look at that in the same way as, well, sure, say you have a variance for building height, the planning commission denies it, they come back the next month with the very same application, and you have to continually, or you continually have to deny it, and that also creates an issue where, you know, the city may end up having, you know, multiple court cases where, you know, after this gets appealed to the mayor and board of aldermen and then it goes to the court, we could have 3, 4, 5, or 6 of these as well, as it pertains to.
And the other thing, Kirk, is that in practice, over the years, because we've had that provision pertains to variance and
Right.
special exceptions for, I know, at least.
And it still exists in the code for variances.
For variances, yeah, I saw that.
And so in practice, at least from the ones I've seen, what it lets the staff do is drill down with the applicant and say, okay, if you want it to be not the same or substantially the same, here's the issue that you need to focus on, right? They weren't worried about the detention pond over here or the pickleball court over here. The problem that they were having was right here with this access point. If you change that to address that concern, and it's then, for us, we know that it's gonna be substantial. That's the conversation that usually happens. So really, it's been a tool for the planning department to bring y'all something that addresses the issues that you've seen in an earlier year.
Okay, that was just my question and concerns about it, but I accept that.
So the one question I have is about, and I know we talked about this a little bit in the ordinance review, but the way it read previously was prior to a hearing, and that's been crossed out, prior to a decision. So that creates this, you know, gamesmanship on the part of the applicant about whether to withdraw or not in the midst of the hearing. Since they have these avenues for appeal, I don't know, I'm throwing it out there for discussion. Should it just be prior to a hearing? Like, once we've heard it, it needs to be.
Should be prior to a hearing?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, you've changed it so that it's prior to a decision. So if we don't get to a decision point, but we've gone through the whole
Paul and
discussion.
I discussed this
Yeah.
at pretty good length last week or so. And, I mean, it says prior to the hearing, so, I mean, technically, you know, if they get up here and we're in the middle of this, that's the hearing. They would have to table it prior to.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I mean, because otherwise, it's substantially the same. If we get right up to a motion and they say, I'd like to withdraw.
Well, the practice.
They still can do that.
Yeah.
What we say a lot is people who listen to what the planning commission says, the planning commission is saying, we don't like that you were doing this thing. This really bothers me. And at that point, after they hear that comment and say, hey, look, can I pull back here and voluntarily go address that thing? And so I'm not in am I gonna have to wait 6 months, whatever it is. I've now heard your feedback, and what I wanna do is take this back, rewrite it, and then come back to the staff. Maybe it's a distinction without a difference, but at that point, planning doesn't really have to gatekeep this much.
Yeah.
They're looking at it, hopefully in the spirit of the applicant trying to address what y'all have given them the opportunity.
Well, and there's some instances where we don't necessarily know how the commission's going to see it. And so, you know, we may have a position that is, you know, just not a position, and then it comes to y'all, and then all of a sudden it gets to a point where you're not supportive or favorable, and if it was prior to that decision, we wouldn't necessarily know, because it's something that we never have really dealt with, and from time to time that happens.
Or the public commenting. And I think-
Or the public comment,
yeah.
sure.
Fair enough.
But also, I mean, if it gets brought up, and I think what you were saying is like people may kind of shift their pullback to the hearing. I would say that, and that's what I'm asking, and once it's on the agenda, once it's on this, when they ask and they pull it back, I mean, we can say, no, we're gonna go ahead and vote. In fact, I make a motion.
I think they can, they have the right to withdraw at any point.
I know, but, I mean, well, that's what my question is. Do they have, once it's on the agenda, I mean, can we not go ahead and, even if they want to withdraw, can we not say no? No, it's on the agenda for today, we're gonna vote on it today, and we're gonna deny it today, so that you can then, and then you can go do your, whatever else you wanna do. But I mean, am I understanding that, is that wrong?
I know our code doesn't address that, that may be more of a Robert Rules question than anything, but I guess once you adopt your agenda, it's your agenda, right? You've got the materials in front of you. I think how we treated it in the past, if somebody says, I'd like to withdraw, it's just, everybody kind of.
Well, we generally would let them, but I'm saying, do we have to let them? I guess that's the question.
I think that's generally been the position of the other commissions and even the mayor and board of aldermen, as an applicant still has the right to withdraw this request. So I don't know why they would be afforded that ability in this situation.
The reason I was asking is because like the request, once we started, y'all were talking about earlier, like once we start, bang the gavel, so they could withdraw it to that point. That's why I was asking. Because like I know in court, like once we start court, once it's going, it's going.
But I mean, Joseph, I think that we've had many instances where we've had things that have come before you, and through the discussion, you know, and an applicant tabling, they've gone back and they've made their project better as a result of that discussion.
Yeah, I'm not saying we should. I'm just getting clarity on the, like, what the rule is.
Well,
That's
I
all
think if you make a bright line rule, then you kill that opportunity.
Yeah,
I don't think we want to make a bright line rule that,
No, we
that
don't.
they have to withdraw it before the gavel bangs.
I think,
I'm just saying, do we have to let them withdraw once we started? That's
I
what I
think
was saying.
it's been our custom to allow them to
I
withdraw.
think it's been our
at any-
practice to do
I
that.
agree, but I think it would matter in this scenario. Like,
Yeah.
I mean,
I don't see any reason to change that practice at the moment.
I don't either.
Yeah.
But if it came down to it, that was my question.
Okay.
Where does the rubber meet the road? What's the rule say?
We can research it and let
Yeah,
you
I'm
know.
not sure there's a black and white answer to that question. I don't think y'all have a bylaw or.
We go back to practice.
No.
Go back to normal practice, which.
Yeah, look, if it came up right now, and y'all were asking me, do we have to let this person withdraw, I'd probably just make it up.
Fair enough.
Well, I mean,
But now I'm gonna give myself some coverage.
the only time I've seen that is in a historic preservation, when it was suggested that the applicant table it, and the applicant said, you know what, no, y'all vote, I'm gonna take this to the alderman. I think that's more.
Because even in the
likely.
historic preservation, they have a similar provision that, you know, if they're denied by the commission, then there's 6-month, you know,
Yeah,
period.
it's a
before they come
1 week
back.
wait for an appeal.
They said, go ahead.
Yeah, it did. They said, go ahead. Just
Yeah. All right. Any other discussion on that final point?
And just a reminder that y'all are recommending body to the mayor and board.
Thank you, Ben. Any other questions, comments, discussion from the audience, online? All right, hearing none, is there a motion on recommendation for the modifications to the land development code?
I'll make a motion to recommend the modifications as put in, with maybe with JR's 25% modification.
Clarification.
Yeah.
All right, we have a motion to approve with the mathematical modification. Is there a second? There's a second. All in favor? Aye.
Who's the second?
Aye.
All right, they're recommended for approval. Is there a motion to adjourn? Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.